I'm Nicole.
And I'm Jackie.
And this is
Ghost to Coast.
All right, today we are talking about Giulia, Tofana, and Randonautica. Jackie, do you know what Randonautica is?
Absolutely not, and I'm terrified.
Do you know anything about it at all, though? I feel like I've explained it a little bit.
Is it something about, like, the deep web or something? No.
No.
Okay, then, no. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay. All right, well then, let's talk about Randonautica.
Please explain.
So, Randonautica is this adventure app that came about. I don't actually know when it came about, but it got really popular during quarantine, like towards the beginning of things, and really became a popular app through like TikTok.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and you're a TikTok person,
yeah,
so you should know these things.
There are a lot of different, like, branches of, like, niches that you get into on TikTok, and I guess I'm just not on Randonautica TikTok.
I mean, that makes sense.
I'm on, like, Moss TikTok.
I see things about mushrooms, and that's about it.
But, like, honestly, that's it.
Okay, well, Randonautica is this adventure app that helps you explore the world around you.
Okay.
It's kind of like geocaching, but not.
Okay.
Do you remember what geocaching is?
Sort of.
That was popular back in, like, high school, right?
I was living under a rock in high school, so I'm still living under a rock.
Well, that's fine. Forget I said anything about geocaching.
Explain geocaching for the listeners at home.
So, geocaching was this thing, I mean, it's still a thing, but it's this thing where, like, you go to specific points, like specific coordinates, and there will be something hidden for you to find. And it's really like this kind of wholesome thing where, like, people will just leave little trinkets and things for people to find, and that's just kind of like geocaching. Okay. And it's cute. But it's also like a way to explore your surroundings, you know?
Sure.
And it's not an app. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are like apps that like tell you where all of the different points are that you can find things. Mm-hmm. It feels kind of like a tiny little treasure hunt.
Sure.
And it's very adorable.
It seems like Pokemon Go, but, like, there's actual physical stuff to find.
Yeah, like, it's not Pokemon at all.
Right. But, like, I remember how, like, Pokemon Go was, like, there are, like, you find the Pokemon, you have to go to actual places to find certain Pokemon.
Yeah. So, kind of like that, but it's in the actual physical world and not in the virtual world.
Dude, playing Pokemon Go on a train was crazy. Because you'd have to, like, race the train to catch a Pokemon. Because if you,
Oh my god. Also, speaking of Pokemon Go was really big when I went on my cross-country road trip from Indiana to Vancouver, Canada, and back. This was, like, in the summer of 2016. And we went to all, like, the national monuments, like, a bunch of national parks. And then also, we show up at Mount Rushmore.
Oh, no.
And the mountain is a gym.
The mountain is the gym, yes. Dude, it was, like, that was it. I remember it was, like, in certain places it got so bad that they, like, banned Pokemon Go from, like, they would, like, stop people from playing Pokemon Go because it got too crowded or whatever. With people just standing there staring at their phones.
Team Instinct had the mountain, by the way, when I was there.
Nice. I forget.
Just in case you were wondering.
I forget what team I was on.
So do I.
Because I didn't, like, play it all the time. I kind of only played it when I was on the train, like, commuting. And so it was, like, kind of tricky because it's, like, you're moving on the train. Yeah. So it's like you miss Pokemon, and then you can really only catch Pokemon when you're at a stop, and then you have to, like, race the stop to get the Pokemon. But that's what I
Yeah.
did when I was commuting.
For me, my friend Ryan and I, we would go to the canal when I was living in Indianapolis. We would go to the canal and just like walk along the canal at night and play Pokemon Go.
Nice.
It was lovely.
Nice. Sounds like a dream.
It was a dream.
Oh, Pokemon Go.
Oh, Pokemon Go. Okay, anyway, back to Randonautica.
Randonautica.
So, how Randonautica works, so like I said, it's this adventure app that helps you explore the world around you. Sort of like geocaching.
Right.
But not. So, the way it works is you share your location with it. You set an intention for your adventure. So, it's very along the lines of like energy of the world sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
And of the universe. And it will then generate random quantum points nearby for you to explore. And there, in those quantum points that it generates for you, which are coordinates, you're supposed to find something that's relevant to the intention that you set. So, and this is when it gets pretty cool. It was programmed with both quantum physics and spirituality in mind. So it's heavily inspired by chaos theory and Guy Debord's theory of the derive. So essentially, these theories mean a small change can set off a series of unpredictable events. Mm-hmm. So in regards to the app, it means that going to a place that you wouldn't otherwise have gone to could lead to a series of events or realizations that break through your regular everyday life. So it's kind of like something that happens, and then all of a sudden that leads to a bunch of things bringing about something else.
Right.
The term quantum point refers to random numbers that have been converted into a coordinate location somewhere nearby. It all has to do with energy, which I think is pretty cool. That's where like the spirituality comes in a little bit. Users can choose between 3 different kinds of quantum points for the app to randomly generate. You've got attractors, voids, and anomalies. Attractors are locations generated in areas with dense clusters of quantum points, meaning it has a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. Voids are locations generated that are the exact opposite of an attractor, where the area has a low number of quantum points surrounding it. And an anomaly is the third kind of location, which is the type of location that is specifically intention-driven and is believed to be influenced by human thought. So it's wild.
Yeah, this sounds cool.
So it is pretty cool. I kind of feel like you would dig it.
Yeah.
But also, it means going out into the world.
Yeah. I think pre-pandemic Jackie would have been really jazzed by it.
Yeah.
We'll see what post-pandemic Jackie does.
Yeah.
But
then
isn't it kind of creepy?
It's got some weird shit
happening.
for sure.
Like, should I be afraid?
It's got some really weird shit going on.
Okay.
And the reason why I bring it up is because it blew up on TikTok because of the weird shit.
Ugh.
And the weird shit happened here in West Seattle.
Oh.
So,
heyo. Cool.
So, like I said, it blew up on TikTok after this video by the handle Henry went viral of some teenagers going randonauting in West Seattle.
Randonauting.
Randonauting.
That's the verb.
Yes.
Great.
Exactly. It took them to this spot on Alki Beach, which is this like rocky beach in West Seattle. Actually, is it a rocky beach? I've actually never been to Alki. Anyway, that doesn't really matter.
They
went to the beach. They went to Alki Beach.
Yeah.
Where the Randonautica point sent them was to this spot on Alki Beach. And there, they found a black suitcase on the rocks. So it is a rocky beach. So yeah, they found this black suitcase on the rocks, and they were really weirded out, like anybody should be when they find a black suitcase on a beach.
Yeah.
So, but they still decided to open up the suitcase.
No.
Yeah, they opened up the suitcase, and immediately, like, the stench was absolutely repulsive. And they were, like, opening it up with, like, a stick, you know, so that they weren't touching anything very much. And they were like, I mean, it could just be meat. It could just be animal meat. But they were like, it really smells like a dead body. Not that they know what a dead body smells like, but I feel like anybody could imagine what a dead body smells like.
Yeah.
Even if they've never smelled one before. So they were like, you know, it could just be meat, but I think we should call the police. So they called the police about what they found, like, just in case it wasn't meat. And lo and behold, it was not meat.
What was in the suitcase?
The terrible smell coming from the trash bag inside the suitcase was human remains.
There was a trash bag full of human remains inside this suitcase.
Yes. That these kids found on a beach that the Randonautica app took them to.
What?
And not just any human remains, right? No. These were human remains of 2 people who had been shot that were later identified as 36-year-old Jessica Lewis and her 27-year-old boyfriend, Austin Winter. And it gets even wilder, friends.
What?
So these 2 people, their remains were found in a suitcase, and then eventually, I don't even remember how long it took them. Oh, it took 10 days between their deaths and them being found. But also, they didn't figure out who done it until August of 2020 when they were found in June. So.
Oh.
Yeah, it took them a minute to figure out the situation.
Like the whole summer.
Yeah. So
this
62,
was recently? This was 2020.
This was just last year.
Oh my God.
This was last summer.
Oh my God. Why did I hear about this? Summer. I didn't even hear about this.
Yeah. So 62-year-old Michael Dudley was charged for the murders of these 2 people in August of 2020 after the bodies were found on June 19th, which was 10 days after their deaths. Let me tell you who Michael Dudley was. Michael Dudley was their landlord.
What?
Watch out, everybody.
Oh, no.
They were renting a room from Dudley down in his place in Burien. And neighbors had heard yelling and gunshots coming from the place on June 9th. And he didn't answer the door when the local police had responded to the call about the yelling and the gunshots. And when they finally, charged him and took him in, the reason he said he killed them was because they owed him rent money in a panini. They owed him rent money during a Ponderosa.
Yeah.
And he said, give me my money now or you die. And they died.
Oh my God.
So that's Randonautica. Just kidding. There's more things to talk about. That was just the big local one.
But why? My question is, why did this app lead them there? Like, what were they supposed to find there?
I don't know. I don't know what their intention was either. Because a lot of things, a lot of people think that it's just the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon and cognitive bias for when they set the intention and it takes them to a point. They're obviously looking for something that is aligning with their intention.
Sure.
So I'll get into theories later, but there's more to talk about.
Okay.
So not all Randonautica adventures go so south as that one in West Seattle.
I hope not.
One of the good ones that I found was that someone with the intention of adoptable cats found a stray kitty along the side of the road near their coordinates, which is very nice. However, a good portion of the viral Randonautica stories are creepy in like one way or another. But also I think like that's a part of the whole viral business. Like people use Randonautica a lot and not all of them are viral. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think like the creepiness is a part of the
what makes
virality
it go
of it,
yeah.
You know? Yeah. So TikTok user GothBoyThrift found himself at the gravestones of 2 unknown relatives of his.
Oh, damn.
Which is wild.
That's kind of cool.
Right? User McKenna Ray went randonauting with the intention of death.
Oh.
With her friend. And their trip took her and her friend to where a man had just been shot.
Oh my God.
So that's traumatic.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Yep.
Like, I want to go find death.
I don't know.
No.
I know. One user went with the intention of red, and the coordinates took them to a spot in the middle of nowhere next to a railroad where a red couch was dumped.
Red like the color.
Red like the color.
Huh.
Another user set their intention as happiness, which is very cute.
Very cute.
And it led them to a gravestone in a cemetery. And the person buried underneath the gravestone was named Joy.
Aw.
Which is so cute and kind of sweet. And then the last one I'm going to mention is some other users were taken to a point in the middle of the woods. This one was very creepy. I actually watched like a bunch of the viral Randonautica ones way back in the summer when it went viral, or like when Randonautica itself kind of blew up. Mm-hmm. And this was one that was pretty damn weird. So these users were taken to a point in the middle of the woods where they found an abandoned village with full-ass building structures made of sticks. That's looking something straight out of Blair Witch to me.
Dude.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Was this...
And there's just like, there's a bunch of different things like this that you can go find.
Right.
If you just look like, for like viral Randonautica stories or something like that. There's like a bunch of YouTube videos out there made by like horror YouTube.
Sure.
Talking about all of the weird Randonautica things if you want to go look at it out.
Yeah. Definitely sounds very Blair Witch, kind of just like you end up in a random point in the middle of...
Like the whole... That one really was like, it looked straight out of some Blair Witch nightmare.
Damn.
I was like, okay. So some of the theories about what this Randonautica thing is A, it's the universe manifesting for you, which is very sweet.
Yes, manifest.
Yes, manifest the shit out of your life, baby. Which, I mean, is sort of in line with its purpose in the way that it was created. It's quantum physics and spirituality of manifestation, which I think is pretty cool. The second one is something that I already mentioned, which is the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon and cognitive bias, which is like after you notice something for the first time, there's a tendency to notice it more often, leading someone to believe that it has a high frequency. And it's basically just like human brain seeing patterns. So that's sort of the exact thing of you go with an intention of seeing red. And then you go to this point where this app tells you, and you're like, that's red, that's red, that's red. You're like looking for what your intention is. Right. Which is kind of a definition of cognitive bias. But also just the fact that it definitely led them to a dumped red couch. Like a very red couch. There's a photo.
It's like obviously a red couch.
A full-ass red couch. Yeah. I'm like, interesting. Also, third and lastly, it's haunted.
It's haunted. The app itself
this app is haunted.
Is haunted. Yes. C.
It's the ghost in the machine.
Yes. I mean, the other thing is, like, at this point, I have a hard time believing in coincidences, which I think goes hand in hand with the whole manifesting and cognitive bias thing. So, yeah, it could be haunted. That's it.
That's it. It could be haunted.
That's it. Because it's like all of these like connections that the app seems to be making with these intentions seem ultra specific.
Yeah.
So how could that be a coincidence? Mm-hmm. Like, who's controlling the app? Like,
it's the ghost
in the machine. It's not like there's like, little people tracking you or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's all about, I mean, it's based on like the energy of the universe.
Right.
With the whole like quantum point system.
Right. And
which is also kind of wild in itself.
Exactly. Like, I feel like I'm definitely all about that, like different spaces in the world having a certain energy frequency. And like, there's really no way to explain that except for, it being haunted, or there are some kind of...
Or not necessarily haunted by, like, ghosts.
Haunted by ghosts, but there's...
Haunting in the way that we think about haunting.
Right, that there's, like...
There's something bigger in charge of it all.
There's energy beyond the physical plane that we are experiencing, which, like, I have to believe in. I mean, it's why humans, like, create religion in the first place, because we're trying to explain phenomenon in the world that we can't explain with science. And, that to me is the energy of the world and the energy of space. And man, and it's like, the other thing is, it's like when you come up against like these like haunted spaces or these high energy frequency spaces, it's like there are multiple people feeling the same way about a certain place, then like I have to believe it. Like if there's a certain place that just creeps out everybody just by being in the space, like there has to be something going on that's beyond our like actual capacity, our actual senses. So I think it's wild. I would not like to be led to dead bodies.
No.
No, thank you. I don't mind.
Please pass.
I mean, I don't mind cemeteries, but like I would not like to find a dead body in a suitcase.
No.
Hard pass.
Like two dead bodies in a trash bag in a suitcase.
Yeah, that's... I mean...
That got washed up on a beach.
Well, I mean, like, at least they found the dude.
Truly. I mean, that's really the saving grace.
Like, they solved a murder?
They solved a murder.
But...
I mean, okay, that's a great way to spin that.
They solved a murder?
They solved a murder.
But at the same...
They helped solve a murder.
But these are, like, kids, like, teenagers.
These are children, yes.
So, like, that's gotta be traumatic.
Like, can you imagine?
No, and I would...
Being a sophomore in high school and having that experience?
No, when I was a sophomore in high school, I was, like, reading Jane Eyre and listening to Paramore's Riot album at the same time, and I thought it was so cool. So I was, like, reading literature and listening to Paramore at the same time. I'm so cool. But I would have shit my pants if I just found a suitcase full of dead body parts. Mm-hmm. I would not. I don't even know if I'd have the composure to, like, call somebody about it. Like, I'd panic first, and then... Because I think when I was in high school, I thought I was, like, more level-headed than I actually was. I would have just fully panicked. I would have run away.
Nah, we were all dramatic fucks. It's fine.
I would have run away so hardcore. Just like, bye. I'm gonna get out of here.
Well, also, the thing about it is, like, on that beach where they found the suitcase, it was, like, down on the rocks, like, below sort of a walkway pier situation, and there were a bunch of people around.
And no one noticed this suitcase?
I mean, do you think that you would care about a suitcase that you see?
No, I mean, if it didn't look suspicious, I probably would have just left it there.
Right, exactly. The only reason that it was found was because these kids were sent there by this app, and cognitive bias told them they're looking for something.
Right. But, like, you said it had a smell? Like, was that really obvious? Like, would someone else...
No, only once they opened it.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't, like, reeking right out of the gate.
No, only once they opened it.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's also something to, like, take note of.
That's bizarro.
Is that, like, all these people for however many days had been, like, walking past this suitcase, and the only reason why it was found was because these teenagers were specifically looking for something at that point.
Oh, gross.
So that's Randonautica for you. I recommend, like, going and looking at other videos and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think you would dig it.
Yeah. I'll probably, like, maybe I'll look it up on YouTube or something. Because if I look it up on TikTok, I'm going to end up in a weird branch
you'll get your algorithm all freaked out.
I don't understand the algorithm. I don't want to end up in a weird place on TikTok. I want to stay on Moss Talk. Like... All right. So, I guess the theme of this episode is murder. Because I'm going to talk about Giulia Tofana, who was one of the world's most prolific serial killers. So
we love a lady killer.
We love a lady killer. So, who is Giulia Tofana? Giulia Tofana lived in Italy during the 17th century. And like I said before, was one of the world's most prolific serial killers, and she allegedly killed over 600 men between 1633 and 1651 in Rome alone.
Pop off,
right?
Bitch.
600 men in 20 years in one city. Like,
wow.
Good for you. So she was born in Palermo in Sicily in 1620, and her mother was Tofana D'Amato, who was also kind of famous for killing people. Her mother was executed for murdering her own husband in 1633. So...
It's a family dynasty.
Yeah, family dynasty, exactly, is what's happening right now. So what's going on in 1633? So in 1633, men had unlimited power. I mean, duh. Mm-hmm. That's just how it is. It's the patriarchy, man. And women at that time had absolutely no social standing. And the only way women could advance in society was to marry wealthy. And at the time, it wasn't, I mean, this is kind of common throughout history, but particularly at the time, it wasn't uncommon for married women to be abused in these kind of toxic relationships where it's just a wealthy man and this woman who's trying to make a name for herself somehow. But because it was common for married women to be abused, some women chose to stay single and try to survive through sex work. But even women who were in violent marriages didn't have protection from the law. At that point, women were still considered property, and therefore their husbands could do whatever they want with them, which is kind of the social climate of the time. We still kind of see some of that throughout history. Like, that's not new. That's not news. But that's what was going on in Italy, particularly. So some women, particularly the wealthy class, were so desperate to escape these abusive marriages that they looked to find ways to escape the situation. So this is where Giulia Tofana comes in. And with the help of her daughter and a few other people, Tofana began selling poisons out of her apothecary shop.
Hey.
And she disguised this apothecary shop as a women's cosmetic business.
Yes.
And she even traveled with the business from Sicily to Naples and even to Rome.
We love a businesswoman.
Right? And so all of these like liquids and powders that were her poisons were disguised as perfumes and other lady skincare products. So basically went off the radar in terms of what these husbands are thinking. Their wives their wives are just going shopping, right? They're just going to get their perfume. Had no idea. So Tofana's best-selling product was called Aqua Tofana. She named it after herself, like no shame.
We love that.
We love it. And the bottles were labeled the Manna of St. Nicholas of Bari. And it was marketed as a women's face cream or ointment. It was kind of unclear whether it was a cream or an ointment. It could have been both. Or that could have just been what the label said. And it was marketed to make the skin more youthful and get rid of blemishes. But the poison itself was made with lead, arsenic, and belladonna. So it's like... she means business.
You dead, son.
But because it was like so cleverly disguised in the packaging, and there were other ingredients included in the product to make it seem more like a cosmetic, husbands had no clue that their wives were buying deadly poisons. And another reason why Aqua Tofana worked so well was because it was undetectable. It was administered over time, and there was like a process to it. And victims wouldn't be suspicious at all. And so these women are giving this poison to their husbands in doses, and usually mixing the poison in some kind of liquid, like wine or soup, some kind of meal.
Yeah.
And the symptoms of the poison also couldn't necessarily be traced back to the poison itself. The first dose caused exhaustion and weakness, and the second dose caused some stomach aches, vomiting, and dysentery, which I find hilarious.
That is fantastic.
And then the third and fourth doses are kind of the final blow of this poison. So the symptoms, along with the like slower sequential evolution of sickness, led doctors to believe that these men were dying of natural or unknown illnesses. Like they just thought they were sick. And couldn't really explain it or trace it back to anything specific. And the time it took for these victims to decline also gave them time to put their affairs in order.
Oh,
so, these husbands who believed that they were on their deathbed had to turn to their wives to figure out who was going to get their fortune. So
and tell me what they did.
Right? So these women, this was a way for them to gain some semblance of control over their wealth, was that their husbands were in their deathbed and turning to them to help them sort out their affairs.
Secure that bag, ladies.
Right? And so Tofana's business was thriving because all of these women were putting their husbands in their deathbed and taking all of their money, right? And Tofana was very charitable in a way because she helped both wealthy and poor women. It didn't matter what kind of social status you had. If you had a husband that was abusive, that you didn't like, you wanted to escape your marriage, Tofana was there.
What a bad bitch.
And she became so popular. I mean, 600 body count. Like, that's, like, word got around. But she was careful about who she was selling her products to. She would only sell products to women that she knew or that were vetted by previous customers. And I think that
she's smart,
right? That like vetting customers and also moving around so often like gave her that opportunity to be so successful and go under the radar for as long as she did.
How long was it before she was found out?
It was between 1633 and 1651.
So it's almost 20 years.
Right. She was in business. She was in business. But, so, how did Giulia Tofana get caught?
Yes.
After almost 20 years.
Question.
20 years of successfully helping these women off their awful husbands. So the story goes, one young woman who had purchased Aqua Tofana panicked right before her husband was going to eat his soup that she poisoned, and begged him not to eat the soup, and subsequently had to reveal Tofana's entire black market trade to him.
Damn.
And so this husband, having found out, forced his wife to give up Tofana and her accomplices, and then went to the police. Here's where it gets fun. So Tofana got word of her warrant, and managed to get sanctuary from a local church.
Wow!
The local church brought her in. I don't know if she was like working with the dirty priest or whatever, but like she got sanctuary, which is huge, right?
Yeah.
But while she was in sanctuary, a rumor spread that she had poisoned the city's water supply.
Oh no.
Right? So the government got involved.
Which I'm guessing wasn't true.
Right. Not true at all, because it's also like, how?
That also, it just doesn't seem like her MO.
Right. That's not her MO. How are you going to poison the entire city's water supply when you're on the run? Mm-hmm. Like, riddle me this. But at this point, she was a dangerous woman. So, they had to figure out some way to get her. But because this rumor went around, the government got involved. And so she was captured and tortured.
Oh, no.
Because that's what you do in the 1600s.
Yikes.
You just torture criminals. And eventually confessed to the murders. Most likely under duress of torture, but she confessed. And so she was executed in 1659 in Campo dei Fiori in Rome, along with her daughter and a few associates. And then after those executions, dozens of lower-class women were executed after being discovered to be her customers. And
only the lower class?
Right. The upper class customers were found out were either imprisoned or banished.
Okay, we see.
Right. classism still remains.
We see the class struggle. We see it.
So that's the story of Giulia Tofana, but her black market basically became something of folklore, and during her prime, it was rumored that her mother passed down the recipe of the poison to her, and she was like upholding her mother's legacy, like we said before. And her poisons even directly influence a string of murders, and influenced an event in France, in 17th century France, called the Affair of Poisons. Catherine Montvoisin, who was dubbed La Voisin, was directly influenced by Giulia Tofana. And she was involved in this Affair of the Poisons, which was an entire event, which I will probably talk about in a later episode because it's fascinating to me. But the events of the Affair of the Poisons culminated in the attempted murder of King Louis XIV.
Bruh.
Right? And so this woman is inspiring people left and right to start poison businesses. And even the famous composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart blamed Tofana's poison when he was suddenly sick and dying. And he says, quote, "I am sure I have been poisoned. I cannot rid myself of this idea. Someone has given me the aqua Tofana and calculated the precise time of my death." Unquote.
What?
Right?
Also, there's a whole thing about Mozart that I will probably, now that you bring it up, talk about in an episode.
Yo, Mozart was crazy. I would love to talk about Mozart.
Bro, his, like, the whole thing with his, what is it, the ninth symphony, his whole thing with the Ninth Symphony. Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
At some point.
We got so much going on. Okay, but I think it's just, like, fascinating that this woman was an influencer. Like,
what a woman. What a woman.
She inspired all of these people to
kill men.
Kill their husbands.
Kill their abusive husbands.
Right. What a legend.
Iconic. Legends only. So thanks for listening, guys. That was our second Ghost to Coast episode. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Ghost to Coast Pod. You can check out the show notes at our website, ghosttocoastpod.com. Eventually, we'll have a Patreon that you can check out, and we'll announce that once it's live. Thanks for listening, and stay spooky.
Stay spooky.